At my 20th birthday party, my childhood friend Julia kneeled down with a diamond ring and said, "Sam, will you marry me?" I nodded through tears, but as I reached out, Julia suddenly put the ring on my buddy Ben's finger. For a second, there was complete silence before everyone burst into laughter. Julia teased and said, "Just kidding around, Sam. You didn't take that seriously, did you?" I just smiled silently and looked past Julia. "Wendy, I bet Julia would propose tonight. I won, so let's go get our marriage license tomorrow." The room went dead silent, then erupted with laughter. Julia, noticing my silence, tried to help me save face. "All right, everyone, no matter what, it's my childhood friend's birthday party, so let's give him a break." Wendy looked at me steadily. "If we're getting a marriage license, then you're moving in with me tonight." I held her gaze for a moment and nodded. My hands clenched into fists at my sides, and my heart ached. In the past, I would have run away crying. But now, I pushed down the pain and walked toward Wendy. "Where are you going? Can't take a joke? Running away with a girl?" Julia blocked my path, her teasing only growing. Ben stifled a laugh, noticing my gaze on her. She finally toned it down. "Julia, Sam's my friend. Don't mess with him. Look, he's about to cry." Watching these two I used to care so much about ridicule me, I couldn't describe the feeling. Felt like my heart was being squeezed tight. I recalled how a new specialty restaurant opened in K-City a week ago. I knew Ben liked new things, so I made reservations for us. That day, I realized something starkly clear. Ben and I were college roommates who became close friends. I confided everything in him, even my feelings for Julia. But I never imagined that when Ben learned about Julia's wealthy family, he'd start flirting with her behind my back. That day at the restaurant, while I was settling the bill, I overheard their phone conversation involving a bet. "Ben, have you decided to be my boyfriend?" she asked. Ben replied, "We're good just flirting. If we date for real, I'm worried it'll hurt Sam." She laughed. "Him? Always chasing me around. I've got a way to make him give up on me for good. Just watch." Ben, amused, asked Julia about her plan. Julia said, "His birthday's next week. I'll pretend to propose to him and use the chance to humiliate him. I bet he won't have the face to follow me around anymore." Ben laughed, while I stood in the shadows, feeling chilled to the bone. After that day, I reflected deeply. What did I do wrong for my two favorite people to hurt me like this? Everyone knew I loved Julia. We grew up as childhood friends. But they didn't know we were close family friends and understood each other well. Since we were kids until college, Julia had chased after me, wanting a title. I saw her as a sister because we were too familiar. But as we grew older, her persistence moved me, and I developed feelings for her. When I agreed to be her boyfriend, she unexpectedly turned me down, telling me to focus on my studies. From then on, I chased her, while she'd lost her affection for me. I didn't know why, but I thought if I burdened her, I'd let go easily. When I finally resolved to give up, Julia started years of taunting. I just wanted to get along peacefully, but she insisted on mocking and playing games with me. Julia might just feel unsatisfied, I thought. After all, she chased me for years, and here I was, ready to give up so fast. She felt her investment of time wasn't reciprocated. She wanted to prove I couldn't move on. It was vanity. "Sam, are you gonna cry right here? If you do, I'll pretend I didn't hear what you said earlier. Okay?" Julia's voice pulled me back to reality. I fixed my cold gaze on her, seeing how she was caught up in her own games. "Julia, you're shameless. Get out of the way." Surprised I'd insult her, her face went cold. I pushed past her, grabbed Wendy's hand, and headed for the door. Julia stood there, stunned, watching intently as Wendy and I were about to leave the room. She finally snapped back, yelling, "Sam, are you stupid? Do you think a fake marriage will make me be with you?" I chuckled. "Fake wedding? Think what you want." Julia scowled. "Sam, enough. I just made a bet with a friend. No need for this fake wedding nonsense." She thought I'd fallen for her bluff and sneered, "After the bet, you'd come crawling back to me. Don't expect a warm welcome then." Her arrogance left me with no lingering affection. "Julia, will see what's real or not." With that, Wendy and I left. Julia tried to stop us, but Ben stopped her. Julia, since Sam's got a fiancé, I'll be your boyfriend, Ben said loudly, trying to gauge my reaction. Julia also raised her voice. Sam, if you walk out now, don't ever show your face to me again. I didn't break stride. As you wish. As I walked out the club's door, just when I was about to let go of her hand, Wendy pulled me into her arms. Sam, are you just gonna ignore me after everything? She said, looking at me with a mix of annoyance in her eyes. I pressed my lips together and wrapped my arm around her neck. No, I'm not. Wendy raised an eyebrow and insisted, if you're not, then move into my place now. I stayed silent. Seeing my silence, Wendy got frustrated and questioned angrily. Sam, did you forget what you promised me that day? How could I forget? After I learned about Julia's bet, I still couldn't resist reaching out to her. But she acted all calm and told me she planned a birthday party for me. Even though I knew it was just a joke, I still wanted one last chance to change things. 3 days before my birthday, I asked Julia to meet up, wanting to have an honest talk. But as soon as I mentioned canceling the party, Julia's face turned cold. Sam, do you know how much effort I've put into your party? I wanted to give you the best. I already sent invites to my friends and now you say cancel it? Hearing her familiar yet insincere words, I felt a pang in my chest. Still, I asked, is there really no way to cancel? I just want to spend the day with you. I can never forget Julia's expression when I said that. Her eyebrows shot up, her eyes almost gleaming with mockery. Yet she still said, I've sent out the invites, canceling it now would just be a joke, right? Sam, you don't want me to lose face in front of my friends, do you? I stared at her quietly for a long time before finally nodding. Once Julia left, I called Wendy, who had a crush on me for a while. I told her everything, adding, once the party's over, let's get married. I'm tired, and I want a stable life. Wendy remained silent for a long time. I thought I had overstepped, but she then seriously said, I agree, and Sam, you better not go back on this. If you do, I'll drag you to the courthouse myself. Remembering that, I sighed and nodded. Wendy beamed with happiness and started pulling me in the direction of my place. Back then, to be closer to Julia, I rented an apartment in the same complex she lived in. Just as we walked into the complex's entrance, Julia was coming out with Ben. Walking past her, Julia suddenly grabbed me. Sam, what's this? Bringing a woman to your place? She sneered. Before I could reply, Wendy shook off her hand. Julia, didn't brush your teeth today? Your words stink. Julia didn't get upset. Her eyes teasingly on me. Pretend marriage, huh? Playing it up for real. Sam, I'm curious. After this big act today, what's your plan tomorrow if you don't get that marriage certificate? I gave her a cool look and kept walking with Wendy. Let's go. Wendy, looking thrilled, gave Julia a look and followed me obediently. Julia's face fell, and she gritted her teeth. Sam, you dare ignore me? Ben stepped in, trying to calm things down with, Sam, just apologize to Julia, I'm sure you guys can still be friends. Ben's pleading eyes made me feel speechless. Ben, you should manage your own issues first. With that, I left with Wendy. At the apartment, just as I was about to unlock the door, Julia squeezed past me and keyed in my code. She let herself in, saying, haven't changed the code yet? Is my birthday that significant? My eyes darkened, and I caught Julia's arm. What do you want, Julia? Julia smirked. Nervous? Aren't you getting married? I'm just here to clear my drawings. Wouldn't want someone to get the wrong idea. I glared at Ben, his smile a challenge. I've been drawing since childhood, especially after falling for Julia. I sketched her daily. I only ever told Ben, couldn't think he'd share it with Julia. They are a couple after all, sharing everything. Huh? Smoothing my expression, I gestured to the living room. Great, your drawings are all shredded there, I said. Julia followed my gaze, her eyes going cold. Wendy couldn't help but chuckle. Julia shot her a glare, looking back at me angrily. Sam, enough. Before I knew it, Wendy had pushed them out and quickly locked the door. Julia had never been treated this way by me and yelled out, Sam, give me another chance and I'll be a fool. Packing up was quick, didn't lift a finger. In no time, I was moving into Wendy's villa with all my stuff. Watching her grinning from ear to ear stirred something in me. That night, I stayed in the master bedroom, and she took the guest room. Early the next morning, Wendy dragged me to the registry office. Still groggy, I found a marriage certificate in my hand before long. Wendy posted about it online, declaring our marriage. Her friends insisted on throwing a party and wanted to meet me. I didn't mind, so the party was set for 3 days later. My parents called me back that day. Arriving home, I discovered Julia had snitched on me. My parents scolded me thoroughly. It wasn't until I showed them my marriage papers and they checked on Wendy's reputation that they sighed. They advised me to live well now that I was married and to bring Wendy home soon. Leaving home, I felt frustrated. I've known Julia for over 20 years. Didn't figure her for a gossip. Running to my parents and stirring trouble? I wasn't planning on hiding my marriage from my parents, but I wasn't expecting them to find out about Wendy like this. When I got to the party, Julia was smoking at the door before I even walked in. She looked flushed, clearly having had some drinks, and her eyes lit up for a moment when she saw me. I frowned a bit, trying to dodge her and head inside, but Julia stopped me. She really has a nose for things, knowing I'd be drinking here. I looked up at her. The usual teasing in her eyes was gone, replaced with a subtle smile. She said, "Since you're being thoughtful and coming to pick me up, I'll give you another chance." I was confused, stiffly asking, "What chance?" Julia raised an eyebrow, got closer and said, "A chance to apologize. If you can satisfy me today, I might." She didn't finish because Wendy walked up to us, wrapped her arm around my waist and said, "Come on, let's go in. Everyone is waiting for us." I nodded and followed Wendy inside. Julia caught up just as Wendy's friends shouted brother-in-law when they saw me. Julia glared at me, her face darkening. "Sam, why are they calling you brother-in-law?" I scanned the party, recognizing a few people who were also at my birthday. Calmly, I replied, "It's because we've registered our marriage. What else did you think?" Both Julia and Wendy come from wealthy families. They aren't friends, but their social circles overlap. Julia was here because someone mentioned it would be lively. Seeing me not fawning over her, Julia's face grew even darker. Holding back her anger, she warned, "Sam, before I lose all patience, tell them your marriage with Wendy is fake." Sounded like a joke. I curiously studied her before saying, "Julia, are you possessed or something?" Her anger boiled over, and she cursed, grabbing me by the collar to pull me outside. Wendy caught my arm and slapped Julia across the face. Julia stumbled, then steadied herself, fire in her eyes as she tried to strike back. "You dare hit me." I quickly stepped in front of Wendy and warned, "Try hurting her, and I won't hesitate to pull my dad's investment from the LJ Group." With that, I led Wendy out of there, heading straight for the underground garage. As the car started, Julia ran over. I told Wendy to hit the gas, but Julia stood in front of the car, blocking the way. The sudden stop made my anger flare. Slamming the car door as I got out, I slapped Julia. "If you're going to cause trouble, don't do it in front of my car." Julia laughed bitterly, turning her head slightly. "Sam, you're really something. To convince me, you not only faked a marriage but threatened me with LJ Group too?" She continued, "Did you forget that you and I grew up together? Our families are the closest." Looking at someone I once loved, hearing her shameless words made me disgusted. Only then did I realize how revolting it was to think of us as childhood sweethearts. I said, "Julia, you're clinging to me because you can't stand losing all the attention, right? Childhood sweethearts, closest families. Please stop disgusting me." I pushed her away from the car and got in smoothly. As we drove off, Julia screamed after the car, "Sam, remember what you said today. Don't come crawling back to me." That night, I went home with Wendy. My parents' worries eased when they saw her. They bombarded Wendy with questions, while I didn't get a word in, so I went upstairs to my room. It had been ages since I stayed at home. My room still had gifts Julia had given me. I grabbed a large trash bag and stuffed them all inside, checking twice to make sure I missed nothing. Then I carried the bag downstairs. Telling my parents briefly, I headed to Julia's house next door. Once, living next to her felt lucky. Now I couldn't stand it. I wished my folks would buy a new place and move away ASAP. I hesitated at Julia's door, considering whether to ring the bell or just toss everything in the trash. But a housekeeper came out with groceries. Overjoyed, I handed her the bag, asking her to return it to Julia, and quickly headed back. We had dinner at my parents' place, and they finally let us go home around 10. Julia called that night, but I blocked her number. The next day, when I went to pack up my studio to move away from LJ Group Street, she showed up. I instantly frowned. Get out. You're not welcome here. Unfazed, Julia flipped through my paintings. I set down my art supplies and moved to push her out. Instead, she grabbed my wrist. Sam, if you're returning my things and cutting ties, shouldn't you have given them to me directly? Don't worry. Ben won't mind if you and I meet secretly like you do. Hearing my nickname and her comparing me to Ben ticked me off. I shook her hand off, frowning. There's no reason for us to meet again. Leave my studio. At first, Julia's eyes sparkled with humor, but spotting the packed items wiped the smile off her face. Sam, what are you doing? Just then, Wendy walked in, saying, What are we doing? Moving out. Is Wendy stupid and blind? The atmosphere turned tense immediately. I wrapped my arm around Wendy. Let's go. The movers can take care of the rest. After leaving the studio, Wendy couldn't stop smiling. I asked, speechless, Wendy, when you're laughing, should I worry there's something wrong with you? Wendy looked at me, eyes sparkling, and said seriously, Sam, I'm really happy. I didn't get it and blurted out, happy about what? Wendy gazed at me with such love in her eyes that I almost drowned in it. As I awkwardly turned my head, she cupped my face and said, I'm so happy Sam finally called me his wife. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I could feel my face turning crimson red. Even though I knew Wendy liked me and we were officially married, being teased like this was a first for me. Seeing how shy and flustered I was, Wendy lit up with joy. She drove us all the way to the villa, never losing the grin on her face. Her good mood was contagious, making me relax. After lunch, I headed for a nap, and Wendy joined me. As she tried to pull me into her embrace, I suddenly said, Wendy, I'm still awake. Wendy froze, looking at me pitifully. Sam, we're married. Her expression amused me, so I snuggled into her arms. Wendy was momentarily surprised, but then tightened her embrace. Still restless, I asked, Wendy, why do you like me? Wendy nuzzled my hair and replied, Love at first sight. Who could resist a handsome, smart guy who's also compassionate and patient with stray animals? That's when it hit me. You knew me in college? We were not only at the same school but also in the same year? Seeing my shock, Wendy added with a hint of jealousy, Back in college, your eyes were only for that heartbreaker. Feeling deeply moved, I rolled over and kissed the woman who was sulking with jealousy. The sun shone brightly through the window, setting a dreamy and intimate mood in the room. When I woke again, it was already evening. The bed next to me was empty. I stretched my sore body and gingerly tried to get up. But as soon as my feet hit the ground, I tumbled to the floor with a yelp. Hearing the commotion, Wendy rushed in, putting down her phone. She checked me over carefully. Are you okay? Seeing her worried expression, I shyly covered my naked body. Wendy laughed at my attempt to hide. Seems you're doing fine. We're married. What's there to hide? I never knew Wendy could be so shameless. Stop it. Before Wendy could respond, a noise came from her phone. Julia, why are you punching the mirror? Are you crazy? Oh my God. It won't stop bleeding. Get her to a hospital. My eyes shifted from Wendy's phone to her, silently asking for an explanation. Before she could speak, another roar came from the phone. Wendy, you stay away from my man, or you'll regret it. Hearing Julia's hysterical voice, I frowned. Julia, are you crazy? The other end fell silent when I spoke. I picked up the phone, ready to hang up, but Julia's raspy voice pleaded, Sam, let's meet. I'll give you what you want. Wendy snatched the phone. Julia, in your dreams. She hung up quickly, tossing the phone aside. I lay on the bed, looking at her, asking silently for an explanation. Wendy sighed. Anna invited me out for drinks. If I'd known Julia was there, wild horses couldn't have dragged me to that call. Anna is Wendy's best friend. She missed out on the party a few days ago because of a business trip, so she had no idea what happened then. She just got back and wanted to throw a get-together, inviting Julia over. I don't believe Julia didn't know the connection between Anna and Wendy. Why would she show up in such circumstances? It's crazy. The evening gathering ended early because of Julia. Wendy brought Anna over to our place. I was planning to cook, but Wendy insisted I rest after the tiring afternoon, so we ordered takeout instead. I lounged on the couch watching TV while they sat nearby, drinking and chatting. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing on the coffee table, and Wendy handed it to me without looking. Upon checking, it was a text from an unknown number, containing some scandalous photos. The key bits were blurred, but I could recognize those faces anywhere. I had just deleted the disgusting photos when another message came in. Sam, don't be so smug. You may have followed Julia for years, but she's still mine. I picked up Wendy's phone and forwarded the photos of Julia's injury, sent by her friends in the group chat, to my own phone. Then I sent them to Ben with a taunting message. So what? Your girl is now going crazy over me? The phone rang immediately after, but I ignored it and blocked the number. Feeling cheeky and smirking, I thought, serve you right. Turning my head, I found Wendy giving me a stern look. My heart skipped a beat, so I leaned over and kissed her. I was just messing with him, nothing more. Her expression softened as she pulled me to sit with her. We were getting into a comfortable evening with Anna when my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number showed up. The attachment was a picture of a badly injured hand. Sam, I've been hurt. Can you come to the hospital to see me? I rolled my eyes and replied, let me know about your funeral. I'll make sure to attend. 3 days later would be the K University alumni celebration. As esteemed graduates, both Wendy and I were invited. Knowing we had some time, I decided to take Wendy to my favorite fashion boutique to order a couple of outfits. Wendy was thrilled, pulling me out of bed bright and early. Yawning in the passenger seat, I thought I should definitely lay down some rules once we got back. With her being so tireless, I worry we might burn out too soon. When I got to the studio, my boss, Mark, greeted me warmly with a hug. But when he saw Wendy smiling behind me, he let go and looked a bit puzzled. Who's this? He asked. I smiled and introduced her, my wife, Wendy. Mark's eyes went wide. He glanced at Wendy, then back at me. It looked like he wanted to say something but held back. After measuring Wendy, Mark handed her a book of clothing designs. Then he quietly pulled me aside and asked, Sam, you're married? What about Julia? Before he could continue, I shushed him with my finger. Glancing at Wendy, who was browsing the designs, I whispered, don't mention her. My wife is a little jealous. Mark chuckled. Wendy turned around and asked, Sam, what are you talking about? Mark smoothly replied, I was just telling Sam you two are a perfect match. No wonder Mark's studio does so well. His wit and quick thinking make him a natural. Wendy beamed at the compliment. She originally planned to pick 3 styles for her clothes, but she ended up pointing at the entire catalog, saying, no need to choose, make one of each for me and match each with Sam's. Mark was thrilled and agreed. I opened my mouth but decided not to say anything. If Wendy's happy spending her money, then it's all good. Just when the atmosphere was perfect, someone called my name from the entrance. Sam? I turned to see Julia walking briskly toward me. Wendy was the first to react, protectively positioning herself in front of me and eyeing Julia cautiously. I peered over Wendy's shoulder and asked, Julia, why are you still around? What are you doing here? Julia looked hurt. That's when I noticed that the usually well-dressed, vibrant woman looked worn out now. Her right hand was wrapped in thick bandages, stained with blood. I frowned and looked away. In a raspy voice, Julia said, Sam, why didn't you come to see me at the hospital? I looked at her in confusion. We're not related. Why should I visit you? Julia's eyes dimmed at my words, and she murmured, not related. But you once said you'd marry no one but me. The tension in the air thickened instantly. Wendy was on the brink of bursting with anger. I quickly tugged Wendy toward the restroom, coaxing softly. Let's see if there are other designs to check out. Julia started to follow, but Mark intercepted her with a new suit. Wendy, you're here to pick up your clothes, right? They're ready. Can you take a look and then leave? Though Mark was smiling, he was firm since I wasn't exactly friendly with Julia. That reminded me that suit was my gift to Julia for her birthday. To ensure the fit, I even took her to Mark's for measurements. But I never expected that the girl who usually didn't care about my gifts would come to pick this one up. Wendy pursed her lips and followed me. Just as I got her into the restroom, Julia called out again, "Sam, this suit was custom made by you. I want you to see me try it on." With a bang, Wendy's fist left a dent in the door frame. My heart sank. The usually high-spirited Julia was behaving very differently today. She took 2 punches from Wendy without uttering a word or resisting, holding the suit tightly and staring at me, eyes filled with sorrow. I kept leading Wendy out of the studio. Julia didn't say anything as we left, clutching the suit tightly. For several days, Wendy stayed home with me, skipping work. I knew she was upset, so I didn't push. On the day of the school anniversary, I helped her get ready. We lingered a bit longer before Wendy finally led me out the door. Everything went smoothly until the anniversary ended. Wendy then left me to roam around the campus while she caught up with a school leader. As I walked near the fountain, I bumped into Julia. I turned to leave, but Julia quickly blocked my path. I stepped back, trying to put some distance between us. "Julia, what do you want?" I asked with a slight frown. Julia's eyes grew teary, and she said in a pleading voice, "Sam, are you so cold that you can't even talk to me nicely?" I looked at her and sighed, averting my eyes. "Julia, what's left to say between us?" "Yes," she interjected, her emotions getting the best of her, closing the gap between us. "Sam, I regret it. I realized too late how I feel. Please give me another chance." I was backed up to the edge of the fountain, holding out a hand to stop her from coming any closer. But Julia seemed not to understand as she continued to approach. When I nearly stumbled into the fountain, she reached out and pulled me back. My heart had barely settled when she quickly pulled me into her arms. Holding my waist tightly, she gazed at me with a glimmer of hope. "Sam, you've only known Wendy for a few days. How could you have real feelings? We grew up together. The person in your heart is me. Just give me one more chance, please?" As she leaned closer, I struggled but couldn't break free. Anger surged, and I slapped her hard. While she was momentarily stunned, I shoved her away and moved to a safer spot. Julia's hopefulness vanished, and she said with difficulty, "Sam, you're really willing to hurt me for someone you've known only a few days?" I looked at her and let out a bitter laugh. "Julia, you do realize I've only known Wendy for a short time. Yet, she cherishes me, makes me feel safe, something you, my childhood friend, never could because you only saw me as a toy. If you were in my shoes, what would you choose?" After that, Julia could no longer meet my eyes. She had her eyes shut tight, with tears silently slipping down from the corners. I turned to leave, but Julia grabbed my shirt. I was running out of patience. "Julia, let go," I snapped. She didn't release, and I could feel her trembling even without turning around. "Sam, I really know I messed up. I shouldn't have bet with Ben, and I shouldn't have played with your feelings. I'm a jerk. I'm begging you, please, forgive me this once. Okay?" I've known Julia for over 20 years. It's the first time I've seen her this humble. I wonder, if she'd pleaded like this on the day of the bet, would things have turned out differently? But what's done is done, and we're only fit to be strangers. Julia, if you have any dignity left, stop bothering me. I'm not interested in garbage that's been sullied. "Sam, I'm not dirty," Julia denied anxiously. I let out a cold laugh. "Ben sent me your naked photos. Want me to dig them out for you?" Julia went completely silent as Wendy came rushing over. I shook Julia off with force, warning her, "Julia, if you want to stay alive, stop bothering me. If my wife loses it, even I can't stop her." Though I said that we live in a law-abiding society, I wouldn't let Wendy go astray for real. While Julia was distracted, looking toward Wendy, I suddenly shoved her into the fountain. Seeing her drenched like a soaked bird, I couldn't help but laugh. When Wendy got to me, she was still catching her breath, showing how worried she'd been. I thought she'd scold me or go after Julia, but she just checked me over thoroughly, head to toe. Seeing I was okay, she looked at me with teary eyes. Honey, I couldn't reach you. People said you left with Julia. Do you know how worried and scared I was? Looking at the pitiful woman in front of me, I softened and kissed her lightly on the lips. Don't worry, I'm fine. Let's go home. Since Julia wouldn't stop hassling me, Wendy handed all the company business over to her dad. She took me on a trip across states, like our honeymoon getaway. Before the trip, our parents met up. They were planning a big wedding for us. But thinking about the complex wedding rituals, Wendy and I kindly declined their offer. In the end, we just had a meal with close family and friends. During our travels, to stop Julia from hassling me with a new number, I gave Wendy my phone. She was more than happy and wore a big smile every day. Gradually, I found myself falling in love with her. To be honest, I thought after getting out of the mess with Julia, I might never love again. But I forgot genuine feelings are reciprocated. We returned to K-City 3 months later, and snow had already started falling as the city got colder. Mark knew I was back and invited me for some tea. While chatting, she gossiped, Sam, you guys were away for 3 months. Didn't you conceive a honeymoon baby? I said no, but the next second, Wendy, who was with me, started to feel nauseous. A hospital check confirmed she was pregnant. Holding the pregnancy report, I helped Wendy out, only to catch a glimpse of someone in the hospital garden looking like Julia. But that person was missing a leg, sitting in a wheelchair. Mark leaned over and said, Never expected to see Julia. I heard the night you left 3 months ago. She went crazy driving to the airport to find you, crashed with a truck, and was in ICU for a long time. Lost a leg too. I furrowed my brows but felt nothing. Mark continued, during her coma, doctors said her chance of waking was slim. Her parents were devastated, praying everywhere. Someone suggested a marriage might wake her up. That guy pushing her wheelchair is her husband. Heard he got an 8-figure dowry. I noticed then the so-called husband was Ben. He saw me too and hurriedly wheeled Julia away. Julia seemed kind of out of it, I said, frowning. Yeah, Mark replied, they say prolonged coma damaged her brain permanently. She's lucky she's not more visibly impaired. Watching Ben walk away, I felt a bit sorry. He had a bright future but chose the wrong path. Ultimately, he ruined his life for that money. When I got home, I shared the news of Wendy's pregnancy with our parents. I was as excited as a 3-year-old holding Wendy tight. Once I calmed down, I recounted seeing Julia at the hospital. To my surprise, Wendy wasn't shocked. She shared even more details with me. At the end, she cautiously told me, Sam, when she had her accident, she tried to call you for one last goodbye. Wendy didn't ask the rest, just looked at me anxiously. I smiled, hugging her tenderly. Leaning on her shoulder, I softly said, to me, you and the baby are what matter most. Seeing the sparkle in her eyes, I felt brightened too. With her and the baby in my future, I know I'll never be lonely again.